How you going, guys? Steve here from Australian 4x4 Adventures, and today we're here to compare this one to this one. Rightio, so if you're new to the battery game, off-roading, adventuring, overlanding, whatever country you're watching this from, it's going to be called something different, but you're always going to be looking for power solutions. So Bluetti has got a range of power solutions. These are some of their bigger ones. There is another one bigger, a couple smaller, but essentially these are the 2000 watt versions of a lithium portable battery solution for anything off-road or camping or overlanding, etc, etc, etc. So if you want to run a fridge, if you want to run some camp lights, you want to charge your phone, you want to run an induction cooker or an air fryer or some other type of device that requires electrical current that keeps people happy. That's awkward. Right, so I've had this one for a while. That was really loud, sorry about that. I've had this one for 12 months, 18 months maybe now, and I've used it a little bit. Wholeheartedly honest, haven't used it heaps because I've always had a 12 volt setup in my car, so I have never really needed to take this one for the sole purpose of using this as a battery unit for when I'm camping. I have lent it to a couple of friends before when we're camping. They've used it, they've said it's great. It's always worked out well every time I've lent it out to someone. The new version, couple of extra features, and I think this model, if you watch my last review, I'll put the little link up here somewhere. I said I didn't actually recommend buying this particular model because of there was a couple of little dramas with it. I think Bluetti actually listened to me because they've fixed those exact issues with this one. So, this video isn't going to be all me standing in the shed talking about what it is and how to use it and what if I think it's great or not. I went away on the weekend. I don't have a car at the moment, so I went with a mate. I took this purely to run everything that I wanted. So induction, air fryer, bottle warmer, charger phones, all the bits and bobs that I'd normally use when I go camping with my car setup. I relied purely on this to see whether or not it was capable of doing it, if it held enough charge, if I could recharge it, do all that stuff. So I am going to go out in the field and actually show you how this stuff works as well. It's not just me standing here for now. But some of the technical stuff while we are standing here, because I didn't talk about this when I was away. So 2200 watt inverter built into the unit. So anything up to 2200 watts, this thing will run perfectly fine. It's got a surge capacity, which I'll chuck down here because I can't remember off the top of my head, but essentially that's the surge capacity of the inverter, which is impressive. It's got some real grunt to it. This one was a little bit less, but still pretty good overall. You can see here, obviously they've gone for the 4 power points instead of the 2. Obviously one of the main differences of these ones is, I think it was one or two of these. I can't remember now. I remember at least one of these was a 30 amp circuit, so you can plug it into your caravans. So one of these is basically a bigger capacity power point to run your caravan properly, so you can not worry about using a 10 amp power point and having to try and file down the last little bit. These ones will accept the full 15 amp leads straight into your caravan. Caravan will run like it's on power permanently, just using this as the battery. I know a guy who actually bought one of these for exactly that purpose, and it runs his van perfectly fine. I think it even runs his aircon, not for very long because it's not a huge capacity, but it actually works really well for that exact purpose. It saves the hassle of putting inverters and chargers and everything else in the van, and then having to sell it with the van. At least with this one, it's literally, I'm going to move it to the next van. As far as the rest of the circuitry goes, it's pretty much very similar. So it's still got the merit plug, it's got the DC 12 volt, 10 amp circuits there. A couple of USB A's, couple of USB C's, or one USB C, sorry. And then the rest are obviously going to be your 240 outlets down below there. Obviously, one of the bigger advantages is only had 2 versus the 4. I know that sounds insignificant, but I had 3 things plugged into this thing while I was away. It saves me unplugging and replugging stuff in. I can set up the table, it's all there. Didn't have to worry about, unplug this, move that there. But everything just worked, which was a nice little feeling overall. I do feel they've upgraded the touchscreen on this one versus this one. It just feels a little bit more seamless overall. A little bit more easy to touch, sensitive. Minor thing, not really something to worry about. How about we go out into the field and have a quick look at what I've done out there. So obviously the best way that I feel that I'm going to be able to show you guys how this new one works is basically to use it for a weekend. Rather than me just standing at home in the shed, as I said before. It's bloody cold. I'm literally just I'm gonna spend a whole weekend using it and just see how it performs, and I'm just gonna show you guys what it does. Then you guys can make your own mind up on whether it's good or whether it's not. So first things first, gotta have toast in the morning, surely. So unit's already on, so I've turned the AC power on, which means as soon as I push the toast down, 777 watts. Who doesn't love a toaster in the bush? Seriously. Ooh, yeah. Got another misshapen toast. Alright, so this is one that you probably wouldn't maybe necessarily think about that you'd use on one of these units. Bottle warmer. So obviously, yes, we can boil a kettle, but these things are pretty easy and they're fairly efficient overall. They use about 500 watts, but only for like 2 minutes, so it's pretty efficient. Mainly I just wanted to give it a go, to be honest with you. I thought it was cool. So gonna run the bottle warmer on it as well, just to see how it goes. Obviously this is used for both Toby and Pippa, so it's gonna be getting a fair bit of use on this one. So I reckon, yeah, keen to see how it finishes it up. Toby, why are you crying? Hey? So you know why you're crying. Alright, so second use, so to say. Battery chainsaw. Gonna see what it does. Charging that up. So that is on already. It'll ramp up in a second. Toby's upset because I don't actually know why he's upset. You're alright, mate. Hey, Toby's trying to get in the swag. What are you doing, mate? Toby! What are you doing? Are you hiding? Yeah, happy camper. But yes, obviously it's never all sunshine and rainbows the entire trip, as per yeah. It's alright, it's what you got to deal with. You got to go through the bad points to get to the good points. So one thing I forgot to show while I was out there was actually me using the induction cooker. We use it to basically cook up all the onion for the gyros that we're having. And also had the air fry going separate times, so it didn't want to run both at once. Obviously now this is running flat chat on the cooktop. It's meant to be 2000 watts on there, but it's only showing 1600 watts on here. That's probably just inefficiencies between the actual cooktop and here. More probably to do with the surface area of the actual pot than something wrong with the unit. It's just the way induction works, pretty much. I did want to try this just on camera, just to show you what happens when you overload the unit. So if I crank that on, so that's maxed out, and this uses around about 1500 by itself. So it's already warning me. We're using 2700 watts right now, but it's still going. Like everything's still running fine. You can see the water starting to steam up and boil already. This has only been on for 30 seconds and it's already starting to steam up. That's just a testament to induction by itself, let alone everything else. So 2683 watts and it's still going. Like it's working hard. I just want to see how long it lasts. All right, there we go. So that was running for around about 2 minutes and it's finally cut everything off just now. So that was running at nearly 2700 watts for a full 2 minutes to cut everything off. So I'm gonna basically unplug that, reset the codes, clear, yes. Quick and easy as that. Heard the induction turn back on. AC is already still turned on. Turn this back on. Chuck it back up to full 2000 watts. We're back going. So even if you do overload the unit, it's as simple and quick and easy as that. Is 2 buttons, alarm, clear, done, and then you're back up and running if for some reason it's overloaded overall. This is also running my phone charger at the same time, which is using another 17 watts. So that sort of adds up overall as well. It's just small amounts, but everything adds up to what it's doing. This thing packed a serious punch. Just for trial and error sake, I'm gonna try it on the old unit and see whether or not this one can hold up to the torture test as well. So I'll turn on everything, smash this up, full capacity. Straight away you can hear those fans kicking in, good, everything's working. So 1600 watts. See if it lasts, eh? Kick on that air fryer. 2700 watts again. Straight off. So that was like 10 seconds there. So that's one of your main differences between obviously inverter capacity. Let's just kill that fault code for a second. Oh, this one's got so many buttons to figure out the fault codes. I think that's probably the main differences. This one's obviously just, the software in this one is better overall. Turn it back on, takes a second. AC power, turned on, fire up, and we're back up and running. So it's not the end of the world with that one. This one's still powerful, does a pretty good job, but this one's just that next step up again. All right, so just to show you something a little bit different. So, if I pull this out of the way a bit, in there is my hot water service that I use for the shed. This is the lead for it. Plugged in down there. So that's using 2181 watts. And I'm getting hot water out of it. So, in essence, what that means is if you were to say lose power at your house, and a lot of people these days are putting in generator changeover switches. If you don't want to say run the generator, because you've only got a couple of small things running, so it's middle of the night, neighbours are cracking the shits at you for running the generator all night. If you've got one of these, you can plug this into your changeover switch and run your house off one of these. Obviously, limited supply, like a generator. Some people have big generators, some people have small, but if you're only running TV, fridge, small stuff, this will do the job for you. So when it comes to charging, this is where things get changed up a little bit from the old one as well. So you still get the same big ass brick to charge it, but there's no thermo fans in this one. I think they've just done extra big cooling fins inside, but there's no actual moving part inside the charger anymore. And it's also a lot quieter. The old one obviously sits over there. Big fan in the back. As soon as you turn it on, makes a whole bunch of racket, and it's not that you're generally around it when you're charging, but this one's just a little bit more pleasant to have on in the shed when you're working away trying to film a YouTube video. This doesn't make any noise at all, which is quite nice. I have noticed the charging capacity, this one's about 400 watts going in at any given time. The old charger would go up to around about 480 watts, so that one This one charged ever so slightly faster. This one charged ever so slightly faster than what this one done, well, that this one is doing overall for charging. That's about the only disadvantage so far that I've found. In the box, obviously, you get a whole bunch of leads and stuff to go with it. So for different scenarios. So lead for 12 volt cigarette lighter charge. So that's going to be 100 watts of charging from like, so that's 12 volts, 10 amps at 12 volt. So that'll give you 100 watts an hour to charge at that. Solar input, so it's going to be a nice screw-in fitting, watertight fitting for there, which goes to your solar panel. That's just a little adapter to go from there to there, which goes to your solar panel adapters, plug straight in. Difference is this one's 700 watts of solar going in, this one's 900 watts of solar going in. So you can put more solar into this unit, which means you can charge it faster. You can dual charge, so you can charge from your 240 volt source and your solar source at the same time. My biggest bugbear of this one before, and why I didn't recommend it to people, was the solar input capacity. Being a 56 volt battery, obviously they relied on a higher voltage to charge, which meant they had to have a 48 volt or higher of solar panel to make this one even activate the MPPT charger inside. It was all cool if you had a high output solar panel, like a 56 volt solar panel or higher. That all worked great, but it meant you had to buy a specific solar panel or link three 12 volt solar panels in series to get enough voltage to the unit to actually charge it. They've fixed it with this one. So this one will accept anywhere from 10 volts up to 145 volts, which is a massive range, which means I could basically unplug the solar from my caravan, plug it into this, and it'll accept it all, because they're all running in series, so it's pushing about 130 volts. Push it straight into this, and it'll charge just fine. Which, for a full driving aspect, I've got 12 volt panels. I don't have a 56 volt panel, so this was kind of useless to me unless I wanted to spend another $800 on solar panels, which I didn't want to do. Massive improvement for this one to be able to charge it from a 12 volt panel. Awesome. Obviously, the more voltage you put into it, the faster it's going to charge, the better off you're going to be. But you don't need the bigger panels, is pretty much what I'm getting at. All right, so battery capacity and how, is it enough overall? So this one they basically claimed it would be 2,000 watt hours of usable battery. This one's a little bit bigger, where they're saying it's 2,048 watt hours overall, so there's a small improvement there in overall capacity. Technically, the battery on the specifications say it's the same thing, 56 volt, 40 amp hour lithium battery, which equates out to around about 170 amp hour, 12 volt equivalent-ish. I know some of you guys are going to chew me apart saying that's not right, but round figures, it's about that, top of my head, so to say. For the weekend, obviously I didn't run a fridge because Michael had a fridge in his car, but I did run some pretty heavy appliances overall. So obviously I had the bottle warmer, and that was used around about 8 times for the entire weekend, because it was warming up both Toby's bottle and Pippa's bottle. We ran the induction cooktop for probably half an hour, cooking all the onion and everything else, because it was a big ass pot of onion. Had the air fryer going for some chips for the kids. Charged my phone twice, Michael's phone a couple of times. Few other bits and bobs to go with it. I charged the iPad twice as well, because Toby loves the iPad when we're camping. Don't get into it, it's a whole other video. And it got down to, including me just torture testing it then, we're down to 32% right now. When I got back from the trip, it was only down to 48%. I've chewed a hell of a lot of battery power right now, just with everything I've been running. So basically use 50% of the battery running all those appliances. It's a fairly heavy use of power. Like, you normally wouldn't, for this type of setup, you probably wouldn't necessarily use induction and everything else, because it is fairly power hungry. Having said that, if you've got the solar to recharge it, absolutely go nuts, use whatever you want. But I probably wouldn't use this if you're as power hungry as I am when I go camping. Unless you got 2 of them maybe, like I do. Other big thing I've noticed is the wireless charging. Obviously, yes, I've got a case on my phone, but if I turn on the DC power for this one, put my phone on top of the wireless charger, start charging, within about 10 seconds or so, that's going to stop charging, because it always has, and it's done that from when I've done the last video as well. I did say there was a couple of issues with the wireless charging. And there we go, it just stopped. If I do it to this one, make sure yep, everything's on. Starting to charge. So far, it's never turned off on me. It's just always kept charging. So maybe the wireless charger is stronger in this one versus this one. They both say 15 watts, but maybe the pads are slightly taller, higher to the ceiling. I don't know, but for some reason, the wireless charging seems to work better in this one than what it does in this one. Another little, probably one of the only other downfalls I found to this one, I said this in the first video about this one as well, is just the operating system, or the BMS, uses a bit of power just to be turned on by itself. So I think from memory, this one used around about 5 or 10% of its battery per day, so per 24-hour period, just to be turned on. I thought that was a little bit excessive. I thought with this one being, with the extra 48 watt hours, obviously that would compensate for that with this and sort of help alleviate that. But from a little test I done, which I'll put up the video in a second, this one seemed to use a little bit more power being left on for 24 hours as opposed to this one, like an extra 5 or 6% more per day to have this one turned on. I'm not sure, I probably should do the test again. Maybe chips are done on the air fryer. Maybe follow me on Instagram and Facebook, because that's where I'll redo the test again. I'll put it up on there, and that way you can sort of see the end results of whether that first test just was skewed for some reason, new battery, old battery, I don't know. I just want to run it again and just see what the end results were. So a little test I'm going to be running is me recording on my iPhone for starter. So I've got both units turned on here. So the original Bluetti versus the EB200P. I want to see what power they use just by being turned on. So I'm just going to turn them on now, which it is, well, it's 6 minutes to 5. So I'm going to basically make sure they're both fully charged, which they are. This one just turns the screen off automatically, but the other one doesn't, as far as I know. I couldn't find it in the settings to turn off. Both the chargers are currently turned on, and as you can see, neither of them are actually currently charging, which means they're both fully charged at 100%. So I'll go ahead and turn the power points off for both. You can hear the charger turn off from the original one, and it is exactly, well, whichever turns on, 5 minutes to 5 now. So I'll check this tomorrow and just see what the percentage is sitting at tomorrow afternoon at hopefully 5 to 5 if I manage to get here in time, and just see what the power usage is just with the unit sitting there with nothing plugged in at all. Oh, so they're both on power saving mode as well. So the eco mode and all that stuff. So they're both on the same settings for what they are. My light, by the way. See what happens tomorrow. Okay, so I completely forgot to come back and check this. It's actually been 2.5 days now. It's 9 o'clock in the morning on the third day. So 2.5 days, we'll call it this. Both the units have actually turned themselves off entirely. You can't turn them back on at all, apart from if you turn the power on. So we'll do that and just see where they're at. Alright, so this one, 80%. Oh, that's surprising. 85%. So the new ones actually use more power than the older one. So I don't know whether that's because that one's turned off earlier than this one. Both on the same modes. Both on the same mode, so I'm not sure whether that's an interesting one. Was not expecting that at all, considering this one technically has more power than this one. So I'm probably going to charge them back up again and do the same test and actually try and remember to, like, you know, check them in 24 hours. So, well, that's interesting so far. Okay, so yes, of course, Bluetti sent me this battery for free, and I've got a promo code for you, which gives you guys a bit of a discount. So if you use A4X4A in the checkout of the site, if you want to buy one, gives you a slight discount. Win-win for everyone. Obviously, yes, they send it to me for free. If you guys use the promo code, it means that I get the sale, in the sense of at least they know them sending me stuff actually generates a sale for them, which means I get more stuff down the track. So yay for me. I am thinking about giving this one away. So maybe if, what do you reckon? Check it in the comments down below. Should I do a giveaway on this unit? Because I'm going to keep this one, because this is going to be handy for me for the new car, which is rocking up soon. And I might actually give this one away. Maybe I can see how that goes. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to leave a comment down below, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next week.